Yes, this is DJ Ski.
I'm Jeff Wilson.
Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President CGC Cards.
Hey, this is Jason Howarth with Panini.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison.
Hey gang, this is Tom Verrilli. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Whatnot.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor.
This is Adam Rips with VFriends.
What's up? This is Aaron from Slab Stocks.
Hey, this is Clark from 5 Card Guys and the Cards to the Moon podcast.
Hey guys, this is Jay with Wild Card.
What's up everyone? This is Duke Dodson from Graybows.
What's up everybody? This is Chris Kelsey from Nash Cards.
What's up everyone? This is Mark Hill from My Card Post.
This is Ray Schulte.
This is Chase Krim.
This is Cody from Texas Roadshow Shop.
This is Mark Aaron from WSB Radio in Atlanta, and you're listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show.
I'm loving the content.
Loving the content here.
I'm loving the content here on the Sports Card Strategy Show.
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 And I'm telling you, the Sports Card Strategy Show.
This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good?
Be sure to subscribe for year-round advice on keeping your portfolio up to date.
Part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, the #1 place for advice on how to make money flipping sports cards. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, there is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
And there's no off-season.
You already know, there is no off-season.
No off-season!
All right, you ready to rock?
Ready to go.
When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own. Thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Yo, Sports Card Strategy Show. Happy Monday, January 13th, Kendall the Lefty McKee. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. I am hyped up on no sleep from traveling abroad, but it's going to be good. I am jacked up on Mountain Dew, and what they mean by that is all adrenaline, no sleep.
All right, Lefty's going to bring it strong. We got a lot of smart things to say to all of you today about helping you make money flipping sports cards. One thing we're going to talk about later on in the show is the best time to sell sports cards. I did a little analysis picking 4 or 5 of the top cards that we've loved recently. Is it being first to the market, or is it waiting for a performance spike? I think this is going to be a very, very interesting discussion. But like I said, there's a lot of smart things we're about to say. We'll talk about NFL Wild Card Weekend recap. We'll talk about sports card rankings updated at nooffseason.com. Give you some free cards that are, the cards aren't free, but the analysis of the cards are free. Some hobby news. And Lefty and I are going to do some analysis on featured auctions of the week. We're going to pick some cards from the formula that we think you should be buying to make money flipping sports cards. And Lefty, we're going to go where they ain't. We've got a segment called Go Where They Ain't, which is kind of bringing it back to the old school here on the Sports Card Strategy Show. One of our principles, our philosophies, our tactics, our strategies is to go where they ain't. So we're going to bring back a segment honoring that. And here's what I got to say, though. One thing we did last year that one of our premium members emailed me about a couple weeks ago and specifically asked if we would do again this year, and I obliged, is the 2025 NFL Playoffs football card selling cheat sheet. So we feel that the NFL playoffs can be a big selling marker for many of the players that are in the playoffs. And we want you to set your alarm clocks, wake up bright and early, and get your listings ready. And we published the cheat sheet last week, and we're updating it every single week through the conference championship games of this NFL playoffs, typically because the Super Bowl itself doesn't necessarily hasn't historically moved the needle, but the getting to the Super Bowl has moved the needle quite a bit. So I'm excited to get into that. Before we get into Wild Card Weekend, Lefty, let's say hello to Terry Anderson, Andrew McDade, Richard Villarreal, Chris Law. We've got a lot of no offseason premium members in the live chat here. Here's a couple of other guys from IG, the Michael J, Papa Wax Picker, Hobby Arena 23, J.C 2927, Barry Siff. Remember that name? Barry Siff, apparently still a member of the fam. Love it. Jaime Corona, another premium member in the house. Good to see Jaime. A lot of these names bringing it strong, not only as premium members of nooffseason.com, but on the premium member Discord as well. So love that. All right, Lefty, I know you've been traveling, so maybe some of this you might not have even had a chance to catch up on what went on around the NFL this past weekend. Obviously, the Rams host the Vikings tonight on Monday Night Football. But other than that, the Texans beat the Chargers. The Ravens beat the Steelers. The Bills beat the Broncos. Eagles beat the Packers. And Commanders, which I'm pumped about. Sorry, Andy Kaysen of Football Card Quest, who's a Buccaneers fan. I'm pumped that the Commanders beat the Buccaneers because I can just let my Jaden Daniels auctions ride, baby. And they're doing pretty well right now on the Tops Now cards. Lefty, anything in particular that you want to dive into from Wild Card Weekend from a football card strategy standpoint, or just anything notable that you want to point out?
I mean, I wish if my Jaden Daniels cards pop from PSA, they are in the very last section of PSA's status symbols. So if they pop for sometime this week, that would be perfect, because as I was watching that game last night, I was like, this guy's a star. This guy's due for greatness, and I'm glad I've got cards from him. I still have that big auto that is pending a redemption, but I'll take that into next year. I'm not that worried about him. But I will say I was hoping that the Chargers would do better than they did. I know the Texans are a hot team for everybody to root for because of C.J. Stroud and because a lot of our people have cards that are C.J. Stroud's. But I was just looking forward to maybe Justin Herbert having a day. And from what I've seen, of course, I wasn't allowed to watch it live, but from what I've seen, Justin Herbert looked a lot more normal than people are wanting him to be. And I think going into the offseason, I know we've said hold into the offseason because he will have a market, and I believe he still will have a market, but I'm a little bit concerned about his long-term trajectory, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's weird to say this, but he's getting old.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys from the 2020 draft class, Herbert, Burrow, Hurts, Love, Tua, they're not the young hot rookies anymore. I mean, we're already entering into Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward hype season probably coming over the next 12 months. And we're smack dab in the middle of Jaden Daniels hype season, and Bo Nix, who lost, but still, making it to the playoffs, big accomplishment for him. And then CJ Stroud is another guy, even though CJ Stroud won a playoff game, which is a big deal. It's interesting because he's fallen so far off the radar, off of the hype index, the proverbial hype index. CJ Stroud has zero hype right now, even though he just won the playoff game. So it's interesting, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, obviously, putting up a big game for the Ravens. Josh Allen doing his thing. You've got a lot of skill position players. If you're holding Bills skill position players, other than Ray Davis, who got injured, it might not be a bad idea to look at maybe trying to move some of those guys. Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. I mean, I think Jordan Love is a hold, to be honest. I think Jordan Love never got quite going this season. And I do think he has it. I think he has the it factor. He was reports that he couldn't really feel his throwing hand yesterday. And then when we know how the season started in Brazil against the Eagles, the same team, I mean, he got injured in that game. So Jordan Love, to me, his season sucked if you were holding his cards going into the season. If you sold right before the season started, you probably did really well. If you held him at all past that, you're probably, holding him until August 2025 and then moving out of him, because I do think he'll go up over the offseason. Jalen Hurts, to me is kind of like a better version of what you just described for Justin Herbert. He's like, he's a better football player, and he's doing the things that the Eagles need him to do to win games and win big games, but he still doesn't have the hobby pricing doesn't really reflect that. But Mosaic Joe put together some notes for us based on some data. And there's a lot to talk about today. So let's quickly go through kind of what Mosaic Farmer Joe has for us and then have a quick discussion around it. So he has Justin Herbert as a buy in the offseason based on the data in terms specifically of his 2020 Prism Silver. He has CJ Stroud as a Prism Silver 2023, selling now and buying in the offseason. When I look at the data for each of these cards, I think it depends on where you bought in, and I think it depends on what the play is, right? So for Stroud, if it's the Prism Silver PSA 10, I still think there's a lot of room for that card to go up throughout the offseason. If you bought in, I mean, there were a couple of sales over the last 30 days under $350. There was one as low as $324, and now it's selling for around $430. So I could see where Mofa Joe is saying sell Stroud now and buy back in maybe after the Texans lose and there's less hype around him this offseason. I could see that. I think it depends, like I said, with Stroud, how much you're into the Stroud card. Or cards that you have. And if you're underwater, I don't think it's a bad hold, because I do think that CJ Stroud's cards probably, based on historical data just of all football cards, I think the Texans probably get better on paper throughout the offseason. They're still young, and there's sure to be some hype around him after he's won a playoff game. And he's the division that he's in. I mean, it looks like on paper, they're going to be the favorites to win that division for a while. So that's not to say that they will, because everything changes year to year in the NFL. But now on the Herbert side of things, I mean, when you're looking at a 2020 Prism Silver, I think it depends what grade. The PSA 10 over the last 90 days is up 54%. The SGC 9.5 is up 22%. But the PSA 9 is down about $18. 11%, and the raw is up. So, and raw is obviously going to depend on how well you think that particular card would grade. So, generally, I think it could make sense to buy Herbert in the offseason. I think it's TBD on that. Generally, I think it could be okay to sell CJ Stroud now after the win and buy back into the offseason, because I do think his cards will go up as we get closer to August. I just don't know if it's that cut and dry. I think it depends on your situation. But what do you think about those guys? I mean, you already talked about Herbert, but what do you think about Stroud?
I think I'm still a believer in Stroud. I think he had a tough look at the middle of this season where people thought he was just going to take over and kind of be what Jalen Daniels ended up being. Which actually, as I was showering yesterday, I was thinking, do we use CJ Stroud as a marker for our Jaden Daniels holds? He lit the world on fire in the season that he came out, and then he really kind of struggled after a while. Are we expecting Jaden Daniels to kind of have a regression similar to CJ Stroud? And so that's, I think a more interesting conversation to go around that world. But I do think CJ Stroud comes back, and as they continue to build more weapons around this Texans team, he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, I do think that's a very interesting conversation. I totally agree with you. We'll talk more about it over the next few weeks, but I think in general, yes, I think you have to use CJ Stroud comps now when sort of projecting a potential value for Jaden Daniels cards around this time next year, because they comp very well. Not only do you have a situation where they're each the second overall pick and they're a quarterback and they had a great rookie season, but the team each of those 2 years that had the number 1 overall pick also picked the quarterback ahead of them and had a crappy season. Yeah. So it's almost like there's so many similarities between those two players. You've got, you could even go back to their Heisman Trophy. Stroud, I don't believe ever won a Heisman Trophy, but he obviously did play at Ohio State, and he was in contention for the Heisman Trophy. Now, Daniels came on strong at the end, won the Heisman Trophy, went to a similar type of school, not a Big Ten school, an SEC school, obviously, but a similar type of school in terms of one that's like perennially competing, for the college football playoffs or the national championship. So there's so many, similarities between those two guys. And then you also you're not gonna have a full year's worth of data on Jaden Daniels cards, which is why I think you have to go back and look at CJ Stroud as the comp. An interesting question too would be like, do you look at Bryce Young as a comp for Caleb Williams? I don't know. I mean, like, how far could you take that? I think that could be some good show content over the next few months. But Ravens defeating the Steelers. I think we all saw this coming. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry continuing their phenomenal season. Steelers got off to a hot start, couldn't quite get it going. I think there's obviously going to be some things that happen in Pittsburgh in the offseason that change some things. I think you could obviously see Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields in new uniforms next year. It'll be interesting to see what happens overall in Pittsburgh. But I think for the time being, short-term strategy with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I'd be starting to look at moving out of both of those two guys if you haven't already, just because how much hotter are they going to get from a sports card market standpoint? What do you think?
No, I think you've got to move out of those. I'm not excited about Pittsburgh looking forward. I think, strangely enough, I think Tomlin might be having a little bit of a hot stove.
Maybe he moves. I saw some blurb somewhere from ESPN about the amount of teams that would be interested in Tomlin should he become available. It was a high number of teams, which
I mean, why would you not be? First off,
I know,
but at the same time, in Pittsburgh, I think they just seem to be wanting something different. Let's just put it that way. I don't think everybody's just like, hey, we're just going to do this forever, get into the playoffs and lose. Like he's created a good regular season agenda, but Pittsburgh wants Super Bowls, Paul. You know that as well as anybody. So
yep. I could see him shaking it up. I mean, when you're wanting to win the Super Bowl, just making it to the playoffs is not good enough, which means you want to make some changes. Now, would I personally move away from Mike Tomlin? No, but would I have meetings? Would I have meetings and try to figure out like, hey, what can we do differently this upcoming season? And in hindsight, yes, we got those two quarterbacks on the cheap. And yes, we made the playoffs with them this year. But what do we need to do at that position specifically to go to the next level? Because everybody, I mean, I don't see many holes in the Pittsburgh Steelers other than the quarterback position. And I think they obviously need another wide receiver. I think you can't just have George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth, but I mean, they've got two good running backs, in my opinion. They've got strong lines and up and coming defensive players. And you've got TJ Watt, any team with a TJ Watt or a Nick Bosa or a Myles Garrett or somebody like that on it, that's a massive building block. So I think the Steelers are, I hope they keep Mike Tomlin. Honestly, even from a sports card perspective, I hope they keep Mike Tomlin because I think all they really need there is a quarterback. And maybe it's Justin Fields, but I don't know if it's either of those guys, to be honest.
I don't think either one of them will be, like you said, I don't think either one of them will be in Pittsburgh, which, what does that mean then? Then who does come in? So,
yeah. And for their cards, I mean, I think that could put Justin Fields back in a hobby hype situation potentially as a potential. I haven't looked at the data, people, so please don't go out and buy Justin Fields based on this comment, but we will look at the data and in a future episode determine if which Justin Fields cards may or may not be a good buy this offseason with a selling marker of like, where does he land kind of a thing. Not, he's definitely not like guaranteed any kind of role anywhere, but I still think he has promise and he's got the high draft capital.
You would think it's in there.
We think it's in there. Speaking of in there, I mean, Josh Allen is a stud, right? Good like Lord, Captain Obvious alert.
Good.
Josh Allen is a stud. I've never really liked Josh Allen, but I haven't like hated on him. But now I'm kind of like, okay, well, I have to respect him. I don't know where he lands in the all-time list if he never actually gets to a Super Bowl, but the fact that he sure is, looks like he could be going to the Super Bowl this year, to me, I think I'm with MoFa Joe. MoFa Joe basically says, I'm not currently taking any action on Josh Allen. The playoffs this year will determine if I'm buying. The AFC is all powerful. But I think if you're holding Josh Allen, you're holding for the same reason you'd be holding Jared Goff, which is getting to the Super Bowl. Once those guys get to the Super Bowl, and probably not before then, do you sell their cards, I think. Now, if you're left holding the bag on Josh Allen, I don't think you're in a bad spot because he's still Josh Allen. Yeah. If you're left holding the bag on Jared Goff, that's a whole other thing. Maybe we could talk about that on another episode. But
I will not be left holding that bag. We'll just put it that way.
So that would be the approach I would be taking too. Lefty has some Jared Goff cards. So, Lefty, while we have you and while we're on that topic, like elaborate on what you mean by that and what your strategy is going to be so that you can maximize your Goff, but you can also not be left holding the bag.
Well, I've had it on a buy it now, and I've sold several of them that people have binned on the way up to where he's at right now. I am playing the risky card, and I am not going to have it at auction tonight. Like when in the divisional round, like I'm not going to have the auction ending. I think they can win this first round of the matchup against the Lions. And so I am betting on the next round be where I sell. So I will either bin the auction or bin the item now or auction the card in the next round is where I'm at with this. But I'm not holding it into the Super Bowl. For me, I'm not doing that because it goes back to the adage of like everybody's looking to sell in the Super Bowl. I want to be one step before everyone's cards are out there.
I like that. And I think flipping it to an auction, we have a sports card school lesson, how to flip the bin to an auction. So go check out sportscardschool.com. And we've got like 30 or 40 brand new lessons there. I'm pumped about Sports Card School. It's better than ever. And we're continuously adding lessons each week based on just new strategies and tactics. Tactics obviously being like how to flip bin to an auction, whereas, strategies being a little bit more in depth with how to make money and things like that. So go check out Sports Card School, but I like what Lefty's doing with Jared Goff. I think that's important. I think you could approach Josh Allen that way, but because he is Josh Allen, AKA like probably perennial MVP candidate for the remainder of his career, unless he gets injured, probably okay to just see if he makes it to the Super Bowl. If he doesn't hold, if he does, sell him. Because it's going to
think about what he's done with nobody else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, like the supporting cast, like
game is going to be amazing cinema.
The supporting cast is now I'm a Lions fan, and I was thinking about this yesterday while I was watching the Bills Broncos game. I was thinking the Lions match up better with the Chiefs than the Bills. Yeah. And I was at the Bills at Lions game this year, and it was just like, it was like a Madden game where it just ran out of time.
Yeah.
Like both teams were, it was 90 points scored, and it was like, okay. I mean, the Lions might be able to win this game if it goes on for like another 8 minutes, but we're out.
Another 8 hours.
Over. So, I mean, and that's how the Bills play. It's like, you're not going to outscore them. Yeah. You can't turn the ball over. You can't make mistakes because they're going to score on every single possession.
They're going to smack you.
Yeah. like I said, we talked about Eagles Packers real quick. I think Jordan Love's a hold. I think Jalen Hurts, you're probably like hoping that he gets back to the Super Bowl if you're holding his cards. Saquon Barkley might be a great sell just because he's a running back. I think he and Derrick Henry kind of fall in a similar category. They're both alive in the playoffs. I'd be looking to move out of those guys.
Funny choice of word.
Baker Mayfield. I've never liked Baker Mayfield. And I think that probably, because I haven't been as objective on him as a player, I probably have missed opportunities personally to make money on his cards. I've dabbled a little bit in Baker over the last maybe 12 months, and I've done okay. But I think there's probably a lot of people who stuck with Baker or bought him really low and are now just doing great. I think he's a sell. I think coming off of, even though he lost, I think coming off of a season where he was like one of the top fantasy quarterbacks and led, a kind of a bad team to the playoffs. His 2018 Prism Silver, Raw, and PSA 9 are up quite a bit over the last 90 days. It obviously depends always like what card we're talking about and where you bought in, like how much you all are into a particular card. So you got to check your data. But in general, I see even like auctioning off Baker cards right now not being a super bad idea. But what do you think?
Well, I'll just show you this. I'm wearing a Browns shirt, and so I have an extreme emotional attachment to Baker. But I also remember laughing at Andy when he said buy Baker when he came into Tampa Bay. I was just like, no way, dude. Like, we've seen the best of Baker. He's behind us, da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. I got to apologize to Andy. So, Andy, here's your formal apology. I apologize. But Baker is a guy that I believe everybody is just waiting for the downfall to happen. And I don't think you're going to find investment potential in an asset where everybody's waiting for the cliff. Everybody's waiting for the fall off. Whether he does it or not is to be determined. And I think it's the same with Herbert. I think people are expecting his cliff to come. Therefore, it's a risky asset because everyone is expecting it to be over soon. And so you're not going to see a whole lot of top end. Let's just invest in players that will have the top end, like Shador and Cooper and all these guys. Let's avoid Baker, sell him now, reposition that into another asset.
I think that's it right there. I think you nailed it. It's like you can only buy so many players, and Baker has always been a risk. And there's a lot of players out there that are risks. And Baker happens to be one of those players that if you took the risk, you got the reward. But now his prices are so high because he is more established that it just doesn't make sense to buy in. It doesn't make sense to buy in. So an interesting, I think a couple more players we'll talk about before we get to some sports card rankings updates, which are definitely more surefire ways to make money flipping sports cards, courtesy of our sports card rankings at nooffseason.com, which premium members get all of and more. And listeners of the Sports Card Strategy Show right now are going to get, like I said, some free advice. But
free cards is what you said earlier.
I want to talk about, not free cards, but free advice. Sam Darnold is someone I want to talk about. And the reason why is because he's a free agent in 2025. Here's what MoFa Joe wrote in the show notes. My opinion is that he will get over whatever he had going on last week, meaning like he shat the bed against the Lions, and have a good game but still lose either against the Rams or their next matchup should they advance. If the Vikings get knocked out, there will be a window to buy Darnold before he gets a new high-dollar contract. Agreed. Playing well but losing is my buy marker. New contract is my selling marker. I will not buy if he craps the bed.
I like that.
So I think this is one of the reasons why nooffseason.com is the place to be. I mean, not only do you have you and I, an interner, but you've got MoFa Joe with great analysis there. And here's the thing, like his prices, I see where Joe's at, but I agree with like the buy marker and the sell marker that Joe's saying. Just be careful, everyone. Make sure that his cards actually do come down.
Yeah.
Before you buy. And not only that, but that you actually buy the right card for the right price for him. Make sure it's a desirable card, make sure it's a liquid card, and make sure it's at the price, the target price, where you're leaving yourself some built-in profit margin, meaning it is down, right? Because he is a free agent in 2025. That doesn't necessarily mean, like, I mean, we've seen what's happened with a lot of guys where they've had a good season or they're projected as a starter in free agency, but then they don't necessarily land in a spot where they're guaranteed a starting role. And then there's some hesitation around them for the entire offseason. Maybe there's a selling marker in August or something, but the selling marker in March or April in free agency doesn't really happen the way that we thought. So I think, like, for me, I agree with Joe's analysis, but for me personally, independently of the fact that I'm disqualified from buying Sam Darnold this year per my own little narrowing of my focus, independently of that, I would fade Sam Darnold if I were all of you. That would be my advice, just because it's pretty risky still to buy into this guy.
Back into what I just said about Baker is, like, you know, like, he's out there and he's probably good, but, like, let's get on assets that we know are going to bang in the next 3 to 6 months. Like, don't be a guy that's trying to be a cute play over something that's just makes sense, you know? So I do believe if I had to invest between the two in a vacuum, I think I would take Sam Darnold at this point over Baker, even though they're both 2018 quarterbacks, because of what we've seen this year of him, and he's going to get a big contract. But still, let's get into another guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's so much cool NFL talk that we could get into. I'm pretty pumped up. But I need to calm down a little bit and stay on topic of the show notes. And what's kind of, this is great. In my show notes, I have a call to action to tip us if you want to.
It's right here.
And Chris Law and Thomas McCauley are both asking, before I even said that, they were asking for the tip jar link so that people can tip us. Just go to tips, TIPS, tips.sportscardstrategy.com. And it'll take you to a little online tip jar. You can drop any amount of money in there for us. It really, really helps us out. Helps us bring you the analysis to make money flipping sports cards. So again, tips.
Tip Mofa Joe for his insight.
Yeah, Mofa Joe will get some tips from this week's tip jar. Tips.sportscardstrategy.com. Okay. Somebody else who could use some tips, Jake. Jake's been in the lab. Listen to the work Jake's been doing. Top risers and fallers in the raw to grade and graded to raw sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. Let's go raw to grade first. I like these. Paolo Banchero 2022 Prism Blue Wave, everyone. Be on the lookout for it. Target cost $88. Its ROI percentage is 14%. Bobby Witt.
Did you see what he did to Paul George this week?
I did not.
Dude, he put me on the map again of saying Banchero is that guy. I remember Connor and somebody else, maybe you, saying he was not that guy. He is. Like, this guy is that guy.
So many things get twisted from our shows. What I said at the time that it was brought up was that it was a high point to be buying into his cards because it was December 2023 and his Prism, like, it's January 2025. Back in December 2023, I said,
I'm going to ride this all the way.
Be careful of Paolo Banchero because his pop count of his 2022 Prism Silver was still sort of on the rise, and all of his rookie cards weren't out yet.
I'm joshing at you.
I know. But Paolo Banchero, 27 minutes in each of the last 2 games, put up 34 points and 20 points, along with 7 and 8 rebounds, 3 and 6 assists, 3 steals against the Bucks.
Dude's incredible.
And so he's back. So Jake did note that his ROI percentage is down by 81%. It's now 14%. And that's actually us being right. So like if you're following along on our formula-based sports card rankings, when a card's ROI percentage goes down, what that can typically mean is that we were right because we had it at a higher ROI percentage for the last several months while Paolo Banchero was out due to injury. And so if you were to have bought into him, and now you're in a situation where you're waiting for your cards to get back, that raw card has gone up in value, which is why the ROI percentage has gone down. But even if you still wanted to buy in today, if you get a gradable, gemmable card, which there's a sports card school lesson at nooffseason.com on how to do that. So check that out. You could still make money. Bobby Witt Jr., who Kendall loves, there's 2 cards that are up quite a bit in ROI percentage, potentially meaning that the raw prices have gone down during the baseball offseason. And as we sit here on Monday, January 13th, it's a good time to buy Bobby Witt, especially his 2022 Chrome Extended short print. I like that Jake is venturing off into some different cards here. Like, I started the formula and I was very focused on liquid cards, like very, very liquid cards.
Yeah.
And cards that are easier to find. And you can find all these cards, but I think like I've always maintained that the more work we put into the formula and the more cards that we add, the more valuable it becomes. So kudos to Jake. Again, tips.sportscardstrategy.com. We'll split some tips with Jake and Mofa Joe, who are back in the lab. But Bobby Witt, 2022 Chrome Extended short print, target cost 172. The ROI change is up 68%. So it's a 69% ROI card right now, raw to grade. I'll let you comment on Bobby Witt here after I read this card, Lefty. His 2022 Topps Update Gold, 119 target cost, percentage change, it's up 51%. So the ROI percentage on that card is now 86% raw to grade. So talk about Bobby Witt Jr. in these cards real quick, Lefty.
Well, the simple fact of it is every single year so far in the data in Bobby Witt Jr.'s card profile, if you've bought him in January and sold him in April, you will make money. Like every year it's been like, if you bought in January and sold in April, it's a cash money. The reason why is because the Royals are commonly looked past, and he is commonly getting looked past by other players in sports cards portfolios. So you're saying, okay, but he got a lot of attention this year and the Royals didn't necessarily get no attention. Is now a time where you are going to be pulling back on that strategy because of this? And my answer is no to that question, because now I think he's got even more hype behind him. Therefore, there will be even more buyers in February. The return on investment may not be as big, but you will still make green in obviously we can't predict the future, but I would say the history and the future look bright on Bobby Witt Jr. And he was a MVP candidate last year. If it wasn't for Aaron Judge doing incredible things, I would project that at one point in the next 5 years, he will be an MVP candidate. And why wouldn't it be 2025? That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I love it. And for those of you kind of just joining us, I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is a player that I was very, very sad to leave off my list of players that I'm buying in 2025. He was like the next athlete up. Anthony Edwards, 2020 Purple Wave, target cost 113, percentage change, it's up 48%. So ROI from a raw to grade standpoint, 70%. We love Ant-Man. There's a lot of Ant-Man cards in our sports card rankings. So go check out the sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. Get a free 30-day trial if you're not already a premium membership. And before we get to the last raw to grade card and then the graded to raw updates, I do just a quick live chat, more live chat love here. We've had the Authentic Sports Card Dad, which makes me laugh because there's a content creator called The Sports Card Dad. And so the Authentic Sports Card Dad, I'm not sure if there's like a little competition going between the two of them or what, but the Authentic Sports Card Dad in the house
is a fake dad.
Yeah, I hope they each actually have children.
No,
or like,
it's not authentic.
Brian Bartunek, new name in the live chat. Good to see you. Terry Anderson, loyal member. And a lot of questions being asked. So again, just a quick reminder, like go to nooffseason.com/ask. That's where we answer. We field all of your questions there and we answer them on the premium pod. So we appreciate everyone asking questions in the live chat, but we will answer them if you go to nooffseason.com/ask and submit them there. A collector's dream in the house, Cyrus in the house. And then the one thing I wanted to say is, and Lefty has a quick announcement on this too. We'll let him go real quick, but there were 2 premium members of nooffseason.com that each pulled massive hits out of their Cooper Flag Tops Now card number 1. Thomas McCauley got a 1 of 1. And I'm announcing that because he put it in the live chat for the public to see. So he left a tip, even though I had nothing to do with the fact that he got a 1 of 1. He got a 1 of 1 and he sold it and he made a lot of money. So the tip is for his 1 of 1. Thanks, Thomas. You're the man. Appreciate you. And then Drew, I won't divulge the last name, but Drew got the same card that Lefty got. So Lefty, which card did you get? Tell everybody.
Bang. Here is the evidence. I know it's hard to see, but I got a redemption card congratulating me that I'm due to receive a Bowman University Now basketball sneaker relic card, not a sneaker relic auto, but a sneaker relic card of Cooper Flag Duke number 1 from Topps 2024. So all the waiting, and I got a huge card that's going to project it's supposed to be out of 25. And so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So Lefty, for those of you who don't know, he got his shipment delayed. Finally got it. And Turner and I were both like, oh, maybe it's delayed because you got some kind of a parallel. Boom, there it is.
There it was.
Terry Anderson got a 1 of 5, 1 out of 5. Got the number 1 out of 5, whatever. That's awesome. So the nooffseason.com fam, I mean, look, for those of you just joining, if you've listened to the show for a long time, you already know this. For those of you just joining, like, we really do help you make money flipping sports cards. We actually give you things for free, strategies. We tell you what to do to make money. And then if you're a premium member at nooffseason.com, it's just so much more great information. Conor McGregor's 2021 Prism. Actually, before I talk about this, I want to say this. So for Drew, if you're wondering what to do with your Cooper Flag parallels, check out the premium pod from this past week at nooffseason.com. Turner and I broke it down. So if you're wondering what to do, should you sell the redemption? Should you redeem the redemption? All that. Check out the premium pod. All right. Conor McGregor 2021 Prism Silver Raw to Grade is down 45% from an ROI standpoint. So Jake basically reports like the biggest movers, right? So these aren't necessarily like the top cards to buy. These are the biggest movers. So that's down 45%. The target cost, though, is only $6. ROI is now down to 2%, though. So there's not as much upside in that play. Now, graded to raw, biggest movers real quick. Again, graded to raw, meaning you buy this card graded, you crack it out, you put it in a nice little one-touch, take nice photos of it, and sell it raw. So Ellie De La Cruz's first Bowman Auto PSA 9 is now actually not profitable because the target cost is $530. The ROI percentage is now negative 32%. Don't buy cards in our sports card rankings that show a negative ROI. It's down 88%. Same with Sebastian Walcott, 2024 first Bowman Auto Refractor PSA 9. Target cost $141, now down 81% to a negative 1% ROI. Juan Soto, 2018 Topps Chrome Update SGC 9.5. Target cost $50, down 51% in ROI, so it's now negative 18 ROI. Avoid that fucker. Avoid CD Lamb 2020 Prism Silver PSA 9. Target cost $42, down 51% from an ROI standpoint, so negative 45% ROI. But there is one. This is a Detroit Tiger, I think. Jackson Jobe, first Bowman Auto PSA 9. Target cost $90. Pitcher, 45% up. So now you can make 39% on it. Lefty, what do you think?
Pitchers can make money, bro. I think Kumar Rocker, Jackson Jobe, et cetera, there are going to be more guys that are going to be worth spending money on. It's not just Paul Skeens anymore, boys.
From the live chat, Chris L. Get a premium membership, folks. It's worth the money. I have made profit on every play I have implemented from nooffseason.com. I'm going to put that on our website as a testimonial. So let me take a quick screenshot of that, Lefty. Thanks, Chris. You're the man. Hobby news real quick before we get into our analysis. We got some great analysis still coming here, folks. So hang on for about the last 30 minutes. Hobby news. Panini signs 5-star QB Keelon Russell. Keelon Russell. This is a 5-star quarterback coming in from Duncanville, Texas High School.
Yeah, baby.
Lefty, like how far away did you grow up from Duncanville, Texas?
Very close. That is Metroplex finest. I always love it when some Metroplex boys get on the map.
Metroplex.
Let's go.
In the house, Keelon Russell, 5-star QB coming to Alabama, nonetheless, is a Panini exclusive. He was named Gatorade National High School Player of the Year after throwing for more than 4,100 yards and 55 touchdowns, leading Duncanville to a 14-1 record and a berth in Texas 6A Division I state final. So the reason why that's relevant, and I wanted to call it out, is because we had guys in the fall that made us a lot of money through their NIL cards. We had guys like Dylan Raiola. We had guys like even Julian Sayin. You know, Sayin never really played for Ohio State, but he was kind of in the situation that Russell is in right now with Panini exclusive. We had, Raiola did play and he had a big game, and then he struggled the rest of the way. But you can make money on NIL cards. And so Keelon Russell most likely will have some autographs, Panini Instant autographs. Most likely we'll have some Panini Instant NIL stuff. We might want to pay attention to that as we get closer to the college football season. So, national championship game a week from right now, basically Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Let's take a look at Riley Leonard. Over the last 90 days, he's got a lot of cards that are up quite a bit. His Bowman Chrome 2023 Bowman Chrome first prospect autos in PSA 10 is up 95%. In PSA 9 is up 77%. Raw is up 36%. His green refractor auto out of 99 is up 109%. So Riley Leonard, I mean, good on you if you held Riley Leonard until now, but now would be a great time to sell those. Jeremiah Love. Who's Jeremiah Love? Why is he in the show notes? What are we doing? What are we doing with this?
College football's hard, bro. There's so many people.
Mofad Joe. Is Jeremiah Love? Back. He is a Notre Dame running back. So Mofad Joe bringing it. Let's tip that guy. Tips.sportscardstrategy.com. Jeremiah loves
Jeremiah
2024 Bowman Chrome first prospect auto up 86%.
Mofad Joe just keeping Paul Hickey young over here.
Mofad Joe and Brian Bartunik's like NDRB. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I love all you guys. All right, there you have it. I mean, look, it's hard to keep up with everything, like Lefty said. But Jeremiah Love looking like a sell. Will Howard, Emeka Egbuka looking like pretty good sells. One thing we texted about over the weekend within Turner, Carson Beck transfers to Miami instead of entering the NFL draft. Depending on what card and depending on when you bought into Carson Beck, it could be pretty brutal for you out there now.
Let me give just an official don't care on that one.
Okay. Yeah, not a big. Okay, so let's go into, since it's still a little bit early for the NBA, we've got some great Mofod Joe notes in here about Giannis and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic and things like that, and the Cavs being 33-5, the Thunder being 32-6. Great. We're not a sports talk show, and while Mofod Joe does have great relevant card data in here, there's not enough time to talk about it on today's show. So let's go to baseball. Gavin Lux traded from the Dodgers to the Reds for a competitive balance round pick. His 2016 Bowman draft base auto PSA 10. It's up $3, Lefty. Is this relevant at all? Or is it like, okay, Ke'Bryan Hayes being sought out by the Yankees. Is that relevant at all
Well, the only thing that this is relevant for is he did have a market at one point, but has fallen way off. I would say if he gets signed with the Yankees, he could spike, but then he would also have to have a good year. I think the Yankees' backup plan is Ke'Bryan Hayes. I would expect Alex Bregman to be their primary.
Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso appear to be the top free agents. Do you see any opportunity there for sports card investors to make any kind of quick flip in free agency for those guys?
I would stay away from both of them because I expect Pete to go back to the Mets. And then I expect Bregman to sign with the Yankees, but all of his cards are in an Astros uniform, and he was a part of that scandal in 2017, which is why his cards have never really sold well. So just fade.
We've got some great stuff coming up in the next few segments. So we're going to skip new releases for this week, and we're going to talk about new releases throughout the rest of the month. But we're going to do a new feature segment here, featured auction of the week. So we've got 4 auctions that have caught the eye of myself and Interner and Lefty. And we're going to go through these, and these are all listed on nooffseason.com for premium members. So if you are a premium member of nooffseason.com, like Sean Red 5 Cards is, who just jumped into the live chat, good to see you. And oh, by the way, Jake Holloway, our guy back in the lab, is in the live chat. So shout out to Jake. There he is.
Come on, Guardian Jake.
Baseball prospects, pay attention to spring training, Jake says. And Jake does make quite a bit of money on his own flipping sports cards. So you should probably listen to any little nuggets Jake throws out there regarding baseball. But anyway, some of these are cards that you're very, very familiar with. One of them is one that we haven't really talked about that much. Let's go with the familiar ones first, Lefty. So up first, some may call this boring. Some may see boring as a great thing to buy into. Joe Burrow, 2020 Donruss Optic Hollow PSA 10. So it's the rated rookie. It ends probably before a lot of people will be listening to this episode tomorrow, but it does end later today. It has 29 bids currently, and it's at $355. I know firsthand this card sells for over $500 during the lead up to just about every single NFL season.
When I opened this in the show notes, apparently I have bid on this card already.
So you like it? There it is.
I do. I did. I bid on it $150 ago, but still, I did bid on this card somehow.
And I like it too. I would be competing with you in that auction had I not limited myself to only buying 5 players this year. Now, one player that I am buying this year, Victor Wembanyama, his 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10. It's a card we've talked about quite a bit on this show and on the premium pod recently. There is an auction. And again, if you're a premium member at nooffseason.com, just go to nooffseason.com, be logged in. You'll see right there. Click it. $660 it's at with 2.5 days left as of when we're filming this show. 14 bids. $660. This has gone up. Since we've talked about it over the last month or so. But I think if you buy this card for right around $700, there's still quite a bit of room in it. Lefty, how high would you go on this thing?
I think I've actually bought from Murozond a lot. So
yeah, me too. I bought raw cards from them.
This is a seller I buy from a lot, which is funny that that we've both ended up finding this guy. Well, I mean, he does have 27,000 sales, so odds of both of us having some of those are high. But I will say I would probably take this. I'm probably at a cap of 700 right now, but I don't think that would mean that if you pay over 700, it's a bad buy. That's just where I'm at right now. I don't want to be the lead comp on something. So, but I am interested in finding these cards anywhere and everywhere.
Totally. Me too. CJ Stroud, we talked about him at the opening of the show, his 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10. There is an auction, ends in about 3.5 days, 11 bids at 405 right now. I probably wouldn't go much higher than 4. I'd stay below 500, but I personally think you guys can make quite a bit of money on CJ Stroud. I don't know.
Would you buy this card right now, though?
I was just about to say, I'm so glad you said that. I was just about to say, I might wait until after the Texans are eliminated, although I don't know how much it matters. It'll be interesting. It will be very interesting to see how much it matters. He's just, everyone is so down on him. And even though the Texans won, he's still not really playing well. So maybe I would wait, Lefty, but I think at the end of the day, you're just trying to get this card for under $500. And if you can get it, I think you can make money on it. We've seen weird things happen in the NFL offseason. Everything that we know about the timing of things tells us to wait. So I think you're right in thinking that way. But again, I mean, I think if you can get this for under $500, I still think you can make money on it. But
I would
what do you think? I mean,
expect them to lose next week, and then you buy this card for $380.
That'd be much better. Terry Anderson bought 2 Wemby Silvers over the past 2 weeks, one at 670 and one at 750. Hard to find below 750 right now. Good to know.
Well, then I wouldn't mind taking it to 7.
And Chris Law saying currently comping at 695.
Wow.
So
okay. That's nice.
Here's my pick.
If you bought at 600, I wouldn't mind getting out at 800. That's all I'm saying. If you bought in the Wemby card when it was teetering on 590, if you bought in there, like Terry, I wouldn't even start thinking about your first card. I know that obviously with fees and everything, you got to be a little more advantageous about some of this stuff, but
I'm going to flag plant right now. Okay. This Wemby Silver PSA 10 is already at about $800. I think this thing goes to $1,100 by April or May.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Late April, early May. This thing is easily an $1,100 or $1,200 card. I have 4 of them, and I'm between $500 and $600 into each of them. Every single one I bought raw and graded.
So would you buy a couple more?
I would buy. Yeah, I've been
$795 right now.
I've been trying to buy 1 or 2 more. Yeah, so I would, because my flag plan is that it'll be an $1,100 to $1,200 card. So I would be netting maybe total $300 to $400 more if I bought 2 more, which would probably be where I would stop myself. But I'd be able to sell 6 of them in late April, early May, and then counting all of the profit together from all the 6 of them based on how much I'm into all 6 of them for. Like I said, I have 4 now. I'd be willing to go buy 2 more, I think.
Yeah.
So, and
good job.
Here we go. Chris. Yeah, we're going to be right. He jumped on the Wemby Silver at 695 when we talked about it as a Christmas gift for one's self. I love it. I remember that episode. Andrew McDade just got 2 at 750 in the last week. Much harder to find below that now than a few weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, Wemby's legit, man. Okay, here was my kind of weird pick, but I think that this is a good strategy for many people to look at. If you've been flipping sports cards for more than 2 years. If you've been flipping sports cards for under 2 years, I would caution you against this strategy. But I think for those of us who have been flipping sports cards for more than 24 months consistently, I think these kinds of things are very interesting to do if you have the budget to do it. So I've pulled up, and again, you can go to nooffseason.com and you can see the one I've pulled up. There's still 2 days left. I've pulled up a Caleb Williams 2024 Panini Donruss Downtown. Now get this, of course, you have to put standard size in the
I totally
in the title and description because of the freaking oversized downtowns.
That made me laugh.
But what's interesting about this listing is a few different things. Number one, it would be a raw to grade play. It would be the only raw to grade play that we've talked about in this segment. So that's a risk and the photos of it, and again, I'm not going to like go through everything on the show because you can go to nooffseason.com and see this, but the photos of it, it's a little hard to tell what it would do grade wise. There, in my opinion, maybe it's a touch off center, top to bottom on the back. Other than that, it looks potentially gemmable, but the photos aren't great either. Yeah. Because and the reason why the photos aren't great is because like the card itself probably takes up 60% of the actual surface area of the photo, which kind of sucks. The other thing that's weird about it, which to me makes it a good thing to talk about, is the opening bid. The opening bid is $749. That is a high opening bid. Now the seller has 100% positive feedback, 123 reviews. Not concerned with that. High opening bid. The reason why the high opening bid is relevant is because it has 0 bids. So the last one sold for $788. The average of this sale is $789. A PSA 9 sells for $815, and a PSA 10 sells for $1660. So if you are someone who is looking to buy to kind of level up a little bit and go from, like, to me, there's a pocket. Like, I personally, and I talk a lot about this in the sports card school lessons that I just posted, but I personally love, like, 5 years into this, I love the $50 investment into a card that will likely make me 80 to 100, but potentially make me 250. And I like doing that as much as possible. A step up from that is buying a card like this Caleb Williams card and then trying to get it graded and then all of a sudden like 2.5xing if you do get that gem. The fact that this one still sells for $815 and a PSA 9, if you can get it, if you're like, if this gets like, if you win this on 1 or 2 bids, this means you probably win it for what it should go for, which is around $790. If you can win it for around $790, to me, it might be worth grading just to see if you can get that $1,700 upside. And then even if it gets a 9, you should still be able to sell it for what you bought it for. And maybe you're just out your grading fee, which isn't great, but it's actually a decent sort of step up from maybe trying to do the higher volume, lower dollar card plays.
Yeah, I like this one. I think Caleb Williams, his market will grow over the offseason, I believe. The Bears had a complicated season is at best, to put it that way. But we saw Caleb have flashes of good quarterback in him. We also saw flashes of bad quarterback in him. But also, he's had several coaches this year, and he's got, different. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of stuff around Caleb Williams, but I still think the product he put on the field was worth it. And so I'd be willing to buy back into Caleb Williams because I've made money here before. I've made money buying in December and selling, or buying in December, January-esque, and then selling later on in the year of Caleb Williams in several occasions. So I'm gonna open this bid. I'm gonna go $750.
Hey, let's go.
So
Lefty opens the bidding. DC Cards 86. You're welcome for mentioning your auction in the featured auction.
There you go. It is gonna sell.
We found you. Okay, good stuff. Now, Lefty, let's go back over to you. Next segment from the formula. Lefty picked a card that he thinks would be a good play for the audience. So Lefty's got one and I've got one. So let's go over to Lefty for his pick. What card do you think is a good play for the audience right now from the formula, and why?
Yeah, so I could have picked any card on any of the tabs here. That was like Paul's requirement to me, is like come with a selection of any card, any tab, anything. And so I'm looking at the raw to grade strategy because I'm kind of addicted to it at this point. I'm addicted to grading cards at PSA. Me and PSA have a strenuous relationship right now where I'm mad at them and love them at the same time. And so you can go into different theories about what that means. But the raw to grade strategy on Chet Holmgren's Prism Silver, getting the 266 raw is where I am falling in love with this strategy. I am so locked into this Thunder team right now, and everyone has seemingly forgotten that they have Chet mother frickin' Holmgren on the bench, Paul. Like, they've got players coming out of their ear holes with 13 picks left or something like that. This team is, I'm so glad that I'm a Thunder fan, because Sam Presti has set me up to being like, to the Thunder being the only team that ever wins a game ever again. And so this, I mean, it's just so nice to watch a team that you know of not only be great now, but have a bright future. And then Chet Holmgren being able to just come into that after having he's going to hit the ground running at a point in the season where everybody else is struggling to like have their body maintenance make it to the playoffs. He has been resting himself and getting him ready for the playoffs. So he's going to be coming into his peak at the playoffs. Like, that is sick for card production. Like, this guy will make us money. So I am all in on Chet Holmgren Prism Silver. They are honestly hard to find in the target price as well, because we are not the only people that love Chet Holmgren, even though people have seemingly forgot that he is going to come onto this team. And I know the Cavs have won or have lost one less game, but personally, I would rather have the Thunder team than the Cavs team right now.
I would too. And this card, 30 is raw to grade, $36 target cost, which is based on the 30-day average. Projected ROI when you grade it, which we take into account all the different grades you're going to get and all that stuff. So the more you can try to buy that's gemmable, the better. Projected ROI 52%. So it's in a really nice pocket. So I like that call, Lefty. My pick is Caitlin Clark, 2024 WNBA Select Concourse 72 Silver Flash. And the Silver Flash, there's a lot of listings for it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's easy to get at the target cost.
That doesn't mean it's easy.
And gemmable. It's a hot card, and Prism just came out. WNBA Prism will be coming out actually next week. I shouldn't say it just came out. Sometimes you're going to probably see it out before it actually comes out, because there's pre-releases to breakers and things like that. But with WNBA Prism coming out, my hope is that the target cost, that this card becomes a little bit more achievable. With that, it could mean that the PSA 10 upside does come down. So there is some risk in picking Caitlin Clark select cards right now on the precipice of Prism actually coming out within the next week to 10 days. Because the reason why, for those of you who don't know, is because if I were to buy this card raw and grade it, by the time I get it back graded, does the PSA 10 price come down based on the fact that now everybody wants Prism, right? So it's a little bit risky, but because it's $100 raw card, and because the projected ROI is 160%, there's still room. There's enough room in that 160% that I could still profit, even if this thing does come down in PSA 10, thus lowering the ROI a little bit. So I'm looking at a lot of auctions for this card. I've been putting in a lot of bids. I haven't won one yet, just because, like I said, everybody wants these cards right now. But I'm trying to stick to that target cost of around $100, 160% ROI. Caitlin Clark's one of my 5 players that I'm buying. So it's a raw to grade play. So Lefty and I both going for the raw to grade play. I think everybody out there who's ever graded with PSA understands your comment a minute ago. So So Hoosier Card Guy says, love the Caitlin Clark Silver Flash. Hoping I can pick up more after the Prism release. Same here, Hoosier Card Guy. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Prism and when we can buy into Prism. But I think that might be a while. I think Prism's going to come out super hot. I think it's going to be super expensive. I'm probably going to be fading Prism for a while until the prices come down. So, all right, let's go.
That might be one release that I go and find a blaster of.
Oh boy. Lefty's going to rip some wax.
There are 3 women in this world that I love with all my heart. Katie McKee, my wife,
there it is.
My mother, and Caitlin Clark.
There it is. Love it. Ryan Painter in the house. What's up, Cleveland? Good to see you. Lefty, next segment. Go where they ain't. Tell us where you're going, where they ain't, and why.
I have 2 of these right now, and one of them is a little more concrete, and that is Evan Carter Bowman Chrome Auto. This is a Rookie of the Year favorite before he got his back injury last year, and before this injury, he was the guy that people were projecting to be like the Rookie of the Year. I like his odds going forward. The Rangers have one of the strangest storms brewing in their camp right now. They have 3 of the top 5 X Factor players of the year when you look at just baseball. They have Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, and Jacob deGrom all coming back into what could seemingly be an X Factor. So all 3 of them hit. This is a World Series team. Like there's no doubt about it for me. And I think Evan Carter has the biggest room to move on this team. I think it's a team that's going to win the division pretty handedly. I think it's a team that's going to win quite a bit of games this year. And I think Evan Carter will be one of the X factors on this team. He's an extremely likable guy, which will help his card value. And I believe people have seemingly forgot about Evan Carter because of the injury. I am willing to go back in on him. And you don't even have to hold it all the way through the season. As Jake the Guardian said earlier, like you get these guys out in spring training. Evan Carter is a guy that people will remember when people start thinking about baseball again. Find your Evan Carters now. Go ahead and get them out there. An interesting guy that I'm also going where they ain't right now. Luis Robert has not really been in a favorable experience in a while. His cards are extremely cheap in comparison to where they were 5 years ago when me and Paul started to get into this. He is potentially on the block this year, and the Cincinnati Reds have talked a lot about trading for this guy. If that does go through, he is on my go where they ain't. If that were to happen, I would say I would sprinkle a little bit on Lou Bob right now because there is possibility of him having one of the blockbuster trades of the offseason.
So would the trade be the selling marker, or would the trade be the buying marker with the spring training or the opening of the season for the Reds being the selling marker?
Yeah, that's hard to evaluate because I think it would be a selling marker, but I wouldn't say it's the selling marker.
Gotcha.
I think the selling marker would be, let's say the selling marker either way is the beginning of the season. And exactly. Come on, Guardian. Jake the Guardian is just so in with me. I love Josh Young's prices as well. There's a lot of young talent on that Rangers team, but Lou Bob could be his selling marker either way could be spring training. So whether he gets traded or not, people are going to hype this guy. He's fairly cheap in a lot of assets right now. I mean, if you just look at his Chrome PSA 10s, they're not very expensive. And I think it's an easy thing to risk low on when you have such a low floor right now. It seemingly could go down, but it could go right back up to where it was, considering his pedigree.
Love those go where they ain't, Lefty. Those are very, very strong. Mine are probably more boring than yours, which is great. We need this has kind of been the thing that I've been doing forever, though. It's playing things nobody's heard of. We need the Dennis Schroeders.
Oh, come on.
We need the Dennis Schroeders compared to the Joe Burrow. So good job. Lefty, you were making fun of me earlier. I just said, you know the Dennis Schroeder. But Lefty did win 2024. In fairness, he won 2024. And he's still going to win 2025. So here are my go where they ain't. it may be hard to believe that this would be a go where they ain't, considering we've actually talked about this guy quite a bit this episode. But the card, CJ Stroud 2023 Donruss Downtown PSA 10, it's actually a high enough pop to where you could probably find it. It's under 1,000 and it's down 28%. So over the last 60 days, its average is $1,730, but its current sale price is $1,450. So because the last couple of sales have been under $1,500 for this card, and it actually sold on Christmas Day for $1,900. There's actually profit margin built into that card. And you may, again, to make money on this, you would need to buy it under $1,400. I do think it's a card that throughout this off season, because it's already in a PSA 10, will go back up to where you could make money on it at, say, $1,700, $1,800, even $1,900. So that would be, again, if you've got the money to do something like that and you can get it for the target cost. Another kind of boring one, but in the same ilk, Joe Burrow 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10s. You don't see a lot of these. Why? Because there's only 282 of them, but it is down 30%. So if you can get this card for $1,200, it is down 30% over the last 60 days. So when you look at a card like that and you look at the last 60 days, that's still really even taking us back into November, where the Bengals weren't even really that good. And it was the midseason dip. So what I've done with the Stroud and the Burrow so far is I've not only looked at the fact that they're down each about 30%, but what are they down 30% from? They're actually down 30% from the midseason dip when both of these guys were crapping the bed anyway. So if you look at the fact, where could they actually be in August if you were able to get them now? They could easily double from where they are, or come close to doubling in August from where they are right now. Another one, this is a Pop 588. So out of the three cards I've talked about so far, this is the one you're most likely going to be able to find. Brock Purdy 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10. It's a $410 card right now. Its average over the last 60 days is $543. Now, again, you got to look at, okay, last sale, $410. Sale before that, $406. So it is a $400 card basically right now. When was it a $550 card? When the 49ers were sucking during the midseason dip. So this card could easily, it was an $800 card in August. It could easily be an $800 card again next August. So I like that. My final go where they ain't is Connor Bedard, his 2023 Upper Deck Young Guns base PSA 10. Now this is a pop 6,486. You can definitely find this card, but this card is down 16%. It's under $600 right now. It's down 16%. It's down 10% in the last 60 days. It's down 25% in the last 90 days. So again, go back 90 days ago. 90 days ago, you're in actually hockey hype season. Like, I don't know if it's a hockey hype season, but right at the beginning of the hockey season. So buying into this Bedard card now, I believe there's upside in it. So I think holding a Connor Bedard PSA 10 Young Guns, it's probably more of a long-term hold and flip. Long-term meaning maybe a year or two versus the others, which I think are like maybe 6 to 8 month holds that I said in my go where they ain't. But I do think it's time to go back and look at that Connor Bedard PSA 10 Young Guns and see if you can get it for under that, around that $500 range. I think it's a good buy.
So, and within the last week, it sold for about $100 cheaper than that. So $620, even though down 24%, it's still trending somewhere in that $550 to $600 range. You could probably get this card cheaper because of the pop count.
Yeah, for sure. 6,500 of them. So, and probably a card where we're towards the end of it being pulled and graded. I think that's the other thing about like the timing of these is that even though you're like, oh God, there's 6,500 of these, that seems like a lot. Maybe the pop count goes up a little bit, but it's probably plateaued. It's probably going to be a flat line. So, all right. Last segment of the day, and it's the title of the show. What is the best time to sell sports cards? First to the market or at a performance spike? So I'm going to present the data here. Lefty and I are going to go card by card and talk about this. It's not the same for each card, but I think you'll see a pattern here that's pretty obvious. And I think, I mean, like, I don't want to spoil it already, but like, Lefty, let's just kind of put it out there. Like, going into this, I mean, do you think holding to a performance spike is gonna net you more and bring you more return, or do you think being first to the market? What would be your gut reaction as an answer to that question?
In terms and the qualifier being the highest dollar amount?
Yes.
I think the highest dollar amount you probably are in the first to the market.
Okay.
Just because like that's actually kind of hard, but every chart that we look at on Market Movers it starts up here and then it's like, and then it flattens out. So I would imagine that first to the market is the best marker.
Now I'm gonna give everyone listening and watching right now maybe like 10 to 15 seconds to think this through. Yell at your iPhone, your Android, yell at your car radio, yell the answer out loud to yourself, or put it in the live chat if you're watching live. First to the market or performance spike. When would you expect to sell your card for more money? First to the market or performance spike? Okay, it's time to get into it. So you've all said your answers, and let's take a look at, we're going to look at some very, very popular cards in the Sports Card Strategy Show over the last couple of years. First up, Shedeur Sanders 2023 Bowman Chrome University First Prospect Auto PSA 10. So when we go back and look over the last 365 days, and when we go back and look at the all data chart, we're going to see that the first sale of this card, Lefty's right, $700 was the first sale of this card. And that was in November of 2023. So that was a quick turnaround at PSA, because that's pretty much right after that release came out. Quick turn at PSA, getting a 10, selling it $700. Since then, what's interesting is the next sale was $255, which was like a month later. Now, since then, that card has gone up and down pretty consistently, and it just sold for $374. Its 365-day high, by the way, is a sale of $399 2 days ago. So there's a performance spike for Shedeur would have been when? It would have been sometime during there was a performance. Well, this card wasn't out during one of his big ones in 2023, but in 2024, $350 sale on September 9th would have been a performance spike. $350 sale around Christmas, like leading up to the bowl game, even though it wasn't like a performance spike, but it was like hype spike.
That was right around the time that they were potentially going to be in the Big 12 playoff game.
There you go. So it's like half of being first. Like, now this is a very, very low pop card, but performance spike basically just over half of what the card sold for being first to the market. Next card up. Now I like what we're doing here, because we're switching sports, we're switching pop counts. We're going from a card that's under pop 100 to a card that's over pop 2000. And we're going back 3 years before the last card we talked about. So Anthony Edwards, 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10. First to the market sale was May in the April and May of 2021. So there was a sale of 1,600, 1,750, and $2,100. And then the price steadily declined all the way into his second year. The beginning of his second year, this card was under $1,000. Now, when I started telling people to buy this card, He-Man, was when it was between 450 and 550. And I was even telling people to buy it all the way up to when it was selling for around 650. The performance spike was massive. It sold in the middle of the NBA playoffs when he had some phenomenal performances last year in May for $1,530. 74 sales was an average. So it not only sold, it didn't just sell for $1,530. It sold 74 times during a 7-day period in mid-May last year for an average of $1,530. So absolutely massive performance spike and liquidity out of a pop 2034 card. So what's interesting here is that we all know what Anthony Edwards did, and we all know who he is and how popular he is and how popular he has become. It took that, what he did in May of 2024. It took that to get 75% of the way to the quote unquote first to the market high point sale. Okay, let's do 3 more real quick, and then we'll have a discussion about it. Actually, we've only got 2 more. Victor Wembanyama, 2023 Prism Silver PSA 10. We're trying to help you guys understand what might be a good point to sell this card. All data, top sale, first to the market, 3,150. Now, there were a bunch of sales before that top sale. Technically, the first to the market sale would be more like around the 2,750 mark. But in that first to the market pocket, you're looking at 2,200 to 2,750. The top sale, 3,150. Since then, it's gone, from being around $1,000 card most of the summer, dipping to being actually closer to a $500 or $600 card in the buying season of November and December. Now to where we talked about earlier in the show, being an $800 card. Looking at Anthony Edwards doing what he did, going back up to being a $1,500 card. That's why I project this Wembanyama. That's why I flag planted earlier in the episode saying this should be easily an $1,100 to $1,200 card. I feel pretty safe about that. I feel pretty safe about this dude doing some things later on in the season that make this an $1,100 to $1,200 card. But we see the first to the market sales are triple that.
Yeah.
Almost. Now, the last one, so far, before we go to the last one, so far, you should all be thinking, okay, let's try to be first to the market, right? Let's try to be first to the market a little more often than we're trying to buy in at a certain point and hold to a performance spike. That's the kind of the discussion I wanted to have. But it doesn't always work that way. So before you start thinking, oh my gosh, I need to completely rework my strategy. I need to be buying singles of the top singles when they first come out, doing a quick turn at PSA to try to get the first or the highest comp in a PSA 10 to the market. Is it valid to try and do that? Sure. Is it always going to work? Not necessarily. And here's the Paul Skeens data. So the Paul Skeens 2023 Bowman Draft first prospect auto data, first to the market sale in a PSA 10, averaging right after Bowman Draft 2023 came out in December of 2023, $400, $500, $428, $368, Okay. The performance spike of the All-Star break from the week of the All-Star break in 2024, July 14th through the 21st, this card sold 12 times for an average of $2,020. So just absolutely slaughtering the first to the market sales. So the takeaway here, I think, is it's hard to make a blanket statement with it. It's hard to say, okay, don't worry about waiting for a performance spike, worry about the speed. I think here's kind of like my initial thoughts, Lefty, and then let's have a quick discussion on this. Generally, I like the speed wins approach to this. I like if I can't be first to the market, I at least want to be, if I'm going to go after a new release, I have to do it really fast. The holding to a performance spike, the risk with that strategy is like everyone's trying to do that all the time to try to be that top comp. And it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to buy a single that's been ripped out of a new release, get it to PSA as quickly as possible, get the PSA 10 and sell it for the top comp when that's what everyone else is trying to do, especially all the breakers who get this like before everyone else and then like try to buy the cards raw off of the people that they've broken in front of them, and they're like holding the card, like making offers, right? So like you have massive competition for that first to the market. Now on the performance spike side of things, there's just as much risk there, because what if the performance spike never happens, right? Yeah. Which is why we have what we have, which is the formula-based rankings, for you to do kind of something safer in between that, which is the raw to grade rankings or the already graded rankings. But I do think that in general, you kind of have to like, even if you're going to do the raw to grade rankings or the already graded rankings, you do kind of have, well, if you're going to do the already graded rankings, you're actually doing the performance spike thing. But if you're going to do the raw to grade, you do kind of have to pick. So Lefty, after me presenting all this data, what are your takeaways?
I think it's an extremely risky thing to go for either primarily. Like if you are like, I'm going to be the first to the market guy, extremely risky. If you're like, I'm going to play performance spike guy, extremely risky. So I think just like in life, there's a lot of gray area in this conversation that I think we've got to play the back and forth. Like if you're doing a play like the Cooper flag, tops now, like let's get all these graded. And I think first to the market is a very key advantage for that kind of a play. But at the same time, like Paul Skeens, nobody believed that pitcher autos were going to sell again. Like people are like, nope, pitcher autos just don't, no thanks, no, and I remember arguing with Krim one time on the Lefty Cards podcast of saying pitchers could be investable again. And he's like, no way, no. And I'm just going to take that win here because like this is pure evidence that it is.
Come on, Krim.
Yeah. This is Chase Krim. Well, that always cracks me up in the intro. But I still think that I'm the guy that's not worried about either. I know that's not the answer you wanted. But I actually think, believe it or not, that is the best answer, because I don't think you should necessarily be doing either. And you actually brought up a good point. There are two different first to the market strategies. The one I've presented in this segment is more of the go buy a big card that's super desirable that just came out. Whereas you mentioned the Cooper flag tops now, which really hits on how we talk about being first to the market with these base bulk plays
print on demand from time to time. So for those, I think you have to be first. Like for many of those, I think you have to be first to the market. Those are first to the market plays. I think this question is more of if we know this is the right card for this player for the foreseeable 2 or 3 years, do we try to, how do we make money on it? Do we try to be first to the market, or do we try to go performance spike? And I'm with you. I'm falling somewhere in the middle of that, because the way that I made money on the Skeens play that we're talking about is I just used the formula raw to grade. I used the formula raw to grade, and I got super fortunate that there was a performance spike. I would have made, because I got 10s, I got 2 10s on that card. I graded 2 of them, each got a gem. And because I bought in at the formula target cost.
Mine got a 6 for what it's worth.
Yours got a 6?
Yes.
That sucks.
Yes.
That happens. I've gotten 6s. But they're because I used the formula and I was fortunate that there was a performance spike, I was able to benefit from the Skeens play, which is kind of where I want everybody to be. I want everybody to be in the pocket of keep yourself in the game, making the plays based on our raw to grade rankings. And when you do that, you're putting yourself in a position when you gem to make money. And if you can align that with a performance spike, then you make a lot more money. So easier said than done. But I think the way that you do it is to just be making the plays all the time from the formula raw to grade.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. I think being in a more seasoned focused market, like in terms of buying in the off season or like for instance, buying football cards at the National and selling, when football season happens. I'm way more interested in that play than I got to find Bazana cards now because he just came out in draft and I need to get a PSA 10 out there, or the performance spike is him going to be making the majors in April for the Guardians. I'm way more obsessed with just buying Bobby Witt Jr. now and selling it in 3 months. No performance spike, no first of the market.
Maybe I need to I'm totally with you. And
what's that third category called?
Maybe I need to test
smart investing.
Smart investing, nooffseason.com. Sports card school
performance
strategy.
Spike, first of the market, or just nooffseason.com membership.
Nooffseason.com. But maybe I need to test this maybe when WNBA Prism comes out. Maybe I go if I see a Caitlin Clark that I think is going to gem, list
it immediately.
Maybe I just go high on that thing. Maybe I go quick turn at PSA and just list it, list it from their vault. See if I can be that top comp. I mean, I think it's worth a little experiment, but what do all you think?
I think it is worth an experiment with your money.
That's right. Let us know in the comments. And for those of you watching on Instagram, by the way, if you're watching live on Instagram, it's way better to just go over to youtube.com/Paul Hickey and watch live, because you'll get more shout outs. But we appreciate wherever you get your sports card strategy show. Most of you we know are on Apple and Spotify, so we appreciate you as well. George Taylor, Arturo Torres, Chris Law, IMK9, Brian Bartunik, Kyle Trevisano, all had questions. So make sure you guys go over to nooffseason.com/ask and ask your questions over there. Rusty Emagart's in the house. Good to see Rusty. He's a loyal, longtime supporter of not only the pod, but also the premium package. So we appreciate you, Rusty. And I guess parting shot from our guy Jake here. He says, just buy Bazana after the Guardians choke next year.
That's anti-Homer status right there.
That's just shifting the cosmos. Jake, you are in the national championship game, my friend, with your Ohio State Buckeyes. Don't even try to shift the cosmos on your Guardians. Come on.
Your NBA team is got 5 losses.
Yeah. Jake's riding on top of the world right now, and he's
crying about the Guardians.
Yeah, he's just sitting there like a crybaby about the Guardians. Come on, Jake. We love you. Lefty, what do you got a little second here before I hit him with the outro. Anything you want to add?
The MLS starts soon. I know you love that.
Hey, out of left field is going to be a segment coming up on one of the next couple episodes where Lefty just basically gets to go off on whatever he wants, and I just have to sit there and take it for 5 minutes.
There will be messy talk in there at some point.
Can't wait for that. Stay tuned. Everybody, don't forget to check out Sports Card School at nooffseason.com. We love you. Have a great day. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now and get a free 30-day trial. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, Sports Card School, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.